You're listening to the Classic Gamers Guild podcast.
This makes my nipples hard.
Yo, what's up, guys? It's me, Paul. It's just me and you today. We're all alone today. We're doing this without Anna. She's sick. So that's what's the problem there. We're doing Codename Iceman today. Codename Icebringer. We're doing Codename Iceman today. This is weird for me because there's no Anna. There's no soft supportive giggles to my nonsense. There's no banter. It's just I'm just gonna talk at you for a little bit about what is largely considered an abomination, the Black Sheep in Sierra's catalog. Some even might say it is a rite of passage that to call yourself an obsessive adventure gamer, that you have to play Codename Iceman. I don't know who some is. I might have just made that up on the fly, but the point is that I played it for you. It was frankly, it was pretty Christ-like of me to do this. Is that offensive? Can a Jewish guy say that? Probably not. But I took one for the team here, and I played Codename Iceman, and now I'm gonna talk at you, which feels like talking at a microphone, alone in a room, because that's more what it is. So I have to kind of envision you guys, the audience, there. Like, listen, let's not get tied up in what it's like for me. Let's talk about Iceman. So, Codename Iceman was released in, I don't know, because that's not what this show does. Should I look it up? Should I have looked it up? You can probably hear me typing in the background. Okay. Codename. Why did I say that? Nobody needed. No, none of you cared what year it came out. Everybody listening is like, it's 1988 to 92-ish. It's good enough for us. But it was in 1989. You can get this on GOG. I know that because it has a 3 out of 5 rating on GOG, which actually is maybe even a little bit generous compared to what I might have expected. But all right, how do we want to do this? I'm gonna walk you through the game. So here's the deal: a lot of you guys are never gonna play this game, so let this be your guide. Let this be the shining hill on a beam top. What? Let this be the shining beam on a hilltop. Man, if I'm going to be this bad with words throughout a podcast, then we're in trouble. So hopefully I'll pull it together. Who really knows? We'll all find out together. Let's do this kind of walkthrough style. We're gonna use the walkthrough as like a chronological guide, and we're going to go through Codename Iceman. I've got a ton of notes on this, and I'm going to say them at you, and maybe do it in a way that's somewhat entertaining / worth your time. Okay, great. Glad we got the basic rules of what a podcast is and should do out of the way. On to Codename Iceman. So, Codename Iceman is a spy thriller about Johnny something. And, again, you might have thought that I would have that on hand. I did just play as Johnny, like, what was it, last night? 2 nights ago? But he's kind of like Johnny protagonist as opposed to Johnny West something that has like the striking personality, which I'm not crapping on because Sonny Bonds is very similar, and I like to think of both Sonny and Johnny Westland, by the way it's Westland, as kind of an avatar. Like they are, where they are lacking in personality is more of an open door for you to insert yourself into them. I didn't mean it to sound so gross, but I also maybe kind of subconsciously did. So you start out as Johnny Westland. The story takes place during a future global oil shortage. So it's essentially the real world in 1989 as far as the Cold War is concerned. But there's the fictional edition of a global oil shortage. When Tunisia is discovered to possess a surplus of high-grade oil, the Soviet Union and U.S. governments try to acquire as much of it as they can, and then Soviet-backed terrorists kidnap a U.S. ambassador in hopes of provoking an international incident, which essentially, what they really, you find out that they're trying to do. Should I just skip right to that? It kind of doesn't matter, and I'll probably forget to bring it up later, so yeah, let's do that now. As it turns out, they're trying to make the U.S. look bad to Tunisia so that Tunisia will sell the oil to the Soviet Union. And the story's actually really good. Like, it's really surprisingly a great story. The writing is really good, too. There's some really interesting descriptors and things like this in the game that really took me by surprise. So I guess we'll let that unfold more organically through my notes as we go on here. But I just wanted to, I guess, start off by saying that the story is solid. There's a lot of elements to this game that are actually really solid and really make it feel like a spy thriller. So it's not all bad. It wants to be a good game. It really does. It wants to be a good game. It just doesn't know how. So yeah. We start off as Johnny Westland on leave in Tahiti, and so that's where the game kicks off. I feel like a lot of us have seen the opening screens to all these Sierra games, whether we've played them or not. Like, as a lot of you know, I just recently played Quest for Glory, and I always knew what the opening screen looked like. Same with Iceman. Like, I've got that visual in my head of Johnny on his beach chair, like a Tahitian hut in the background, and so that's where you start off. So you're reading the magazine, reading about world affairs. You get up, you walk around. You eventually make your way left where you find a volleyball match going on, and it's 2 against 1. And so you jump in, make it 2 against 2, and you start playing volleyball. This scene goes on way too long. Like, there's nothing going on. Like, I don't know, maybe whoever did it was like just super proud of the animation, so they just want you to see it for longer than you need to. But you play volleyball for an awkward amount of time. And then eventually the ball just gets fucking launched into the ocean. Like, it doesn't like pitter away or slowly roll into the waves and then gets carried out. It just gets launched. It's gone. And so one of the girls goes to get the ball and she drowned. Like, just like that. She's like, I'll be right back. I'm going to get the ball. And you hear cries for help. So Johnny has to make his way into the water. He pulls her. But not only she did immediately drown, because you go out to help her, and the text on the screen is like, you drag her unconscious body to the shore. So, I mean, she really, not a survivor, let's just say. So you bring her onto the beach, and this is where the copyright protection kicks in, where you have to, and this is also where the Jim Walls kicks in, where you have to, procedurally bring her back to life using the exact right commands. And so you do. It's like, check her pulse, give her chest thumps, whatever they're called, compressions. You do a CPR on her in a very Jim Walls walk around the car like fashion, using the manual. I'm saying too much. I gotta stop saying too much, me. So just note that going forward. Sorry guys for all of my past umming. I almost said it again. I'm really under a lot of pressure right now not to say Phew, yeah, all I want to do is say now that I've taken that off the plate for myself. So, anyway, one of my notes here says, first of all, the game says look, listen, and feel. And I love a good look, listen, so that immediately got my attention. And my note here says, just when I think I'm a good person, I find myself quietly hoping that we'll get laid for saving her. Which is, I'm not sure, I arguably shouldn't even share that publicly. But, you're like saving this like pretty girl in a bikini's life, and you're like, hey, maybe old Johnny here will get some for saving her life. That's not how being a good Samaritan works. I know. Look, that's the premise of maybe why it's potentially funny. Because, scumbag. But, jeez me. It feels extra brutal without Anna here because it's just crickets. Like, after you say something like that and you wait for that reassuring laughter, the Anna is like the I don't know, the representation of society approving, like it's okay, and she's not here, so I don't know where this is headed right now, but it doesn't matter. We saved the girl's life, and she literally doesn't say thank you. She says that it's a good thing that you were a good swimmer, and then, in the words of Space Quest historian, off she fucks. That's it. And that's what I deserved, frankly, is no affection whatsoever from her, because I did it to save her life and for nothing else. Okay? And maybe to get past the copyright protection. Am I just gonna like marathon through this? I feel like it's hard to breathe without Anna here. I'm just talking nonstop now for I don't know how many minutes, and I'm not taking enough like breathing breaks. and I'm getting a little cotton mouth here staring at this can of Freshka. Love Freshka. Does anybody else out there love Freshka like I do? It's so good. Like, who would have ever thought that grapefruit would rise to the top of the hierarchy as far as great soda flavors? But it turns out at the end of the day, it's not whatever root beer is. It's not orange something. It's not ginger. It's definitely not ginger. See, that makes me miss Anna too, because she would Canadianly argue for ginger, I bet. Because Canada Dry, ginger ale. All right. Let's just keep with the game here. So, we save the girl's life, and off she goes. We head back to our chair. We put on our shirt. Oh, another little note I had here was I like how factual and almost helpful the compression stats are. Stats is the wrong word, but the sentiment here is that they give you how you actually save a life. Like they break down how you're supposed to do the chest compressions as far as the timing and rhythm is concerned, and it's not just copyright protection. Like, hey, maybe you'll learn something doing this, which is very Jim Walls, and I really appreciate that. That's the spirit of that is occasionally in the Phantom Fellows, where there'll be just little lines of like, hey, this is how that actually goes, just in case that helps. If we're not making jokes, it might as well be helpful or interesting here. So anyway, that was cool. So I learned how to save a life. I mean, I immediately forgot it because, I was playing Iceman. It wasn't, whatever. Okay, look, listen, let's keep moving. We got this. There's a daunting amount of notes ahead of me here. I hope this is somewhat entertaining for you guys, because if it's not, you're excused. It's going to be a lot of this. It's going to be a lot of me. Too much, way too much me. Okay, so we head back to the hotel. We write down a number. For the dinghy boat that we'll need later. It's a good old 555 number, which I love that, honestly. I think all of us do. We all grew up in the generation where you had to use 555 for a good fake number. It really takes me back. So that was fun. So now we're in the hotel. You talk to the girl behind the counter, you get a close-up portrait of her, and you react like this. Gah! Because it's not a flattering portrait, man. The art in this game has me divided. It's a little bit dodgy. Should I talk about the art now? Yeah, I guess so, right? There's no need to overthink it. We'll just say things as they come to mind. So the art is not great. It's subpar, I think, for a Sierra game. In fact, one observation that I'm probably the most proud of, my favorite note, let's say, is that this game and the fan game Enclosure, which longtime listeners in the show will know that we've covered that game actually twice. I really like it, and Anna hadn't played it. Look, doesn't matter. Enclosure and Iceman are kind of on the exact same level. There's something almost fan gamey about Iceman as far as some of the art scenes are concerned. Some of them, because some of the art scenes are really good. Like all of the art in Tahiti in the beginning is really, really good. The close-up portraits have a fan-made kind of vibe to them. The latter scenes in the game when you're walking around, I guess it's Tunisia, are really, really plain. There is nothing going on. And I had looked at screenshots of this on SierraWallpaper.com, and I'm not sure if it was on an episode or just to Anna in private, but I had kind of shit on the game where I was just like, man, it is so plain and so boring, and it kind of is. But now having the context of playing the game, I can at least say that these are kind of like, how do you like politely say this? It's third world country living. So it's like, it is just crude stone like huts and houses or whatever. So it is kind of representative of what it really should be, but at the same time, it's like, come on, guys, like put some cracks in the wall, or like, some sort of texture, some sort of something. It's just a lot of yellow for the last act of the game. But yeah, so the art has me divided. There's some more intricate scenes inside of the submarine that are pretty good, and I'm not sure I'd really... it's strange in a sense, because the more I think about it, Tahiti, the first act of the game, the art's all really, really good. It might even be noticeably better than at least the final act. But regardless, the art has me divided, and the game has kind of fan game vibes to it. Enclosure, for example, looks a lot like a Sierra game until it doesn't. Like most of it comes across as really competent, really, really fun to look at, AGI grade art. And then there's like a few scenes, like when the blood splattered, a message is written in blood on the wall. There's just like a few kind of messy scenes that just don't have the polish of a commercial game. And that's exactly how Iceman is too, where like most of the scenes have that polish and they look really good. And then you get these close-up portraits and you're just like, that is not Mark Crow. That is, I hate being like this because you never know, and it was such a small niche thing, and Codeman Ice name. This game doesn't have a whole lot of podcast episodes dedicated to it, so if I worked on this game and somebody put out a podcast, I'd probably listen to it, and that has me feeling really bad about criticizing the art and things like that. I will say that the artist who worked on this game worked on many other Sierra games, and they did a great job in those because, I like all the art in all the Sierra games. This one is just a little iffy at times. Anyway, let's move on. So, you look at the girl in the hotel lobby, you get at her portrait, you get your key to your room, you head to the bar next door, and that's when you're greeted by just one of the greatest songs in a Sierra game, in an adventure game ever. The reggae song that plays here is so good, and I have to, I guess, take a time out here to also say that the music in this game is phenomenal. It's so good. It's one of my favorite soundtracks in a game. It's that good. I know, first of all, Mark Siebert did the score for this game, and man, what a genius. It's so good. There's so many notes in this game that he hits exactly right. Like the reggae song just hits all the quintessential reggae beats, as far as he has like the whistle in there, like the quintessential whistle in the middle of a reggae song. He's got that kind of, I'm not even sure exactly how to describe it. I would highly recommend that everybody listening to this listen to the soundtrack later today. It's that good. It's that interesting, nonetheless, at least to have a pass through and just be like, it's a shame that I almost imagine the cold, dead corpse that is Codename Iceman. Did I say that right? Yeah. Grabbing onto the soundtrack and just pulling it down with it. Because the soundtrack doesn't deserve that. Nobody ever stops to be like, the submarine thing was bullshit, blah, 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 but the soundtrack's really good. Like, I feel bad for Siebert. Like, this score just gets drugged down and forgotten with the rest of the game, and it's an exceptional score. It really is. There's another... The opening theme is incredible. It's just got, like, this thick, rich synthesizer vibe going on that fits the time, and just... I really like synthwave music in general, so it's just, like, this warm, Stranger Things almost sort of vibe. Then there's the reggae thing we talked about. Then there's a beat in the submarine that doesn't kick off until the sonar first hits. And as soon as the sonar pings for the first time in the game, the score kicks in, and it utilizes that sonar ping on like the fourth beat as part of the song with like a real chill kind of bass line that's just like a bass line and this sonar ping. And it's so creative and so good. And yeah, so that was one thing that took me absolutely by surprise is the music is really good. The premise of the story is really good. And some of the puzzles had the potential to be really good. We'll get more into that as we continue on here. So anyway, now we've walked into the bar. The really good reggae song is playing. The bar is alive. There's a dance floor. There's a band. You walk around. You schmooze. You talk to different people. Then you spot a girl sitting alone. You go over. You chat her up a little bit. You offer to buy her a drink. She accepts. You go on the dance floor with her, and then bam, you're hit with just. I was not prepared for this awesome, completely unhinged dance scene that takes place in this game. It's like I said, as a Sierra fan, a lot of us spend time in I don't know, groups online like the Classic Gamers Guild, etc. And you hear tell. You hear tell of scenes in these games, and everybody knows Cedric, whether you've played 5 or not, and things like that. You know about the submarine scene in this game, whether you've played it or not, etc. But I had never seen a single screenshot or was given any sort of heads up about the dance scene in this game, and it is amazing. It's so good. The animations are so good. Johnny, first of all, you can walk him around the dance floor for what turns out to be no reason. The programmer, let's put a little pin in that. I'll circle back to that in a second here. But you can walk around the dance floor for what turned out to seem like no reason. There was bigger plans from what I gathered that were never really implemented. But you can kind of walk around as you and what's her name? Is it Sandy? Stacy. You and Stacy dance together. Stacy's the girl that you're dancing with. I don't know what further context there I was reaching for, but she's doing a quintessential 80s dance, you know, where like the girl would like rough up her own hair in the middle of a dance, you know, kind of just like okay, well, look, you can't see me doing it, but it was very sexy. And Johnny, if you face him upwards, he does like this little like booty thing. This like, I wish I could dance like Johnny. It's really good. There's a fun Easter egg too, where if you look at, there's a guy sitting at a table. If you look at him, it's like, this is so and so. He's the programmer for Colonel's Bequest. I should do him more justice than so and so. Chris Hoyt. If you look at the guy who looks like a in game, by the way, he looks like a cross between Keith Robinson and Jesse Baines. But it's Chris Hoyt, programmer of KQ4 and now the Colonel's Bequest, and a very kind of factual Easter egg. And anyways, when you're done dancing with the girl, you sit back down, you have some champagne together, and you go to her room, you make out on the bed, and you get laid. Just like that. It's incredible. I had a fun back and forth with Anna. It's super a shame because she wanted to bring this up in the podcast too. She's like, oh, we should mention it in the podcast. But she sends me a message and she was like, and how the hell is this not a Leisure Suit Larry game? I mean, the dude gets laid in the first 5 minutes. And I was like, that's exactly how it's not a Larry game, because he got laid in the first 5 minutes. Ba-doom-tsh. Very cute. So that was a thing that was said between us at some point. So yeah, you get laid by this girl. I mean, you're like a commander in the army, so you're probably like all buff and whatever, and so it's you're not Larry, is what I'm saying. There's reason behind it. They move fast. I made a quick note saying that actually it's a pretty incoherent note, but I was basically just excited to see a adventure game protagonist get laid kind of quickly and without a ton of effort, because Oliver does in the Phantom Fellows, and that shocks a lot of streamers when they see that, just like, oh my god, that actually they just did that, and I kind of got a taste of my own medicine, because I was just like, holy shit, there's that shock that they feel like it just worked out for them, I guess as it occasionally does. I should be looking at my notes, too. Okay. Was not prepared for awesome unhinged dance scene. Yes. Music is banging. Covered that. Oh, yeah. When you're making out with the girl and she asks you if you want to come back to your place, the walkthrough says to say yes. And to which I wrote, thanks, guy, but I got this. Do you guys hear that? That was the weirdest little noise. Sounded like a mechanical rattlesnake in the house. Okay. All right. Sorry. Anyway, so we get laid, which is represented by fireworks in the game, which is, again, just feels appropriately 80s for some reason. And you wake up to a note. She kind of pieced it and didn't want to wake you up because you were sleeping peacefully. And so you walk outside. You remember that the girl told you earlier that she lost one of her earrings, and it would mean a lot to her if she found it again. It was a very passive-aggressive hint that she wants you to find her earring. So you walk outside. To Sierra's credit, this could have been a massive pain in the ass, or a pixel hunt, let's say, but they give you a nice little glimmer, and you see the earring kind of right away near the bush, and you pick it up, and you realize that the earring can be opened, so you open up the earring, and you find microfilm inside of it. Very spy thriller. Like, oh my god, who's this girl we slept with? She's an undercover, whatever. And we're, a high-ranking military dude, so let's see as this Mr. and Mrs. Smith kind of tale unfolds or whatever. And it will. We'll get there. So, yeah, you find the microfilm in her earring, and essentially we're almost done with the island here. There's some ukulele music that plays, and, man, MT32 just nails the ukulele. I played this with the Munt emulator in DOSBox, and I'll get into why I did that very shortly here. But I'm trying to think of any last little notes before we leave the island. Yeah, I've got a few. Okay, you've got a black book with some numbers. One of them is your colonel. The other is Gigi Baloney, which is, man, just like to try to tell us that he's Italian without just rubbing everyone's nose in it. Holy crap. Fun fact, Gigi is an Italian nickname for Luigi. And another fun fact, Luigi is actually Mario's brother. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so you walk into your hut on this island. You know, instead of like a hotel, let's say, everyone has a hut. You know, little grass Tahitian hut thing or whatever. That is the resort. The hut's really, really cool. It's really well designed. You walk into the hut. Well, it's partially well designed and partially horribly designed. The great part of it is that when you walk in, there's a part of the floor, it has a glass panel so that you can see the ocean, because the hut's on a pier, so you can see the ocean under the hut, and that's just such a nice little touch, right? Like I really, really like that kind of attention to detail sort of thing, and that's, you know, what you would imagine would be there, this little glass floor, so you could see the ocean below you. The poor part of the design is that there's you can walk out onto like a balcony in the back, and there's no door. So like anybody theoretically could just walk into your hut if they just walk around to the back and then inside and then just take all your things. Like that wouldn't be how any design would be in real life, sort of thing. It's so nerdy. In the silence, in the void without Anna here, all I can hear is my own pathetic nerdiness. That's not actually correct. You see, at a regular hotel, there would be a door there. Sorry. Okay. You call up your colonel, and he's like, what are you doing? Get off the leave, you lazy son of a whatever. You're a really high-ranking guy, and that thing you read about in the newspaper earlier is going to now directly involve you. It's the oil shortage thing. Sorry, it's classic me. Forgot to say earlier, you read in the newspaper about the oil shortage and the tensions rising, and that the U.S. ambassador was kidnapped, and if the U.S. doesn't do whatever, then they're going to shoot him in the head. And so, 5 minutes later in the game, it's like, hey, you're the guy that's going to address that thing in the international newspaper. So cool, great, we're up for the task. So my notes here is that, one, the lovely glass floor in the hut, covered that. The huts aren't very secure, covered that. Hey, we never got to give that girl her earring. Didn't cover that, but now that's just kind of, okay, you will deal with the earring later, but still, you kind of do just take her earring and then leave. And then the next note is actually kind of lovely. It says, wow, have I been doing this for a half hour already? No, that's not what, that's not what the note says. It says, I love this right now. Seeing new Sierra rooms, an amazing soundtrack. I love in real life adventure games. Like adventure games that take place in the real life. Seeing these realistic tiny cars in the parking lot, sliding glass doors, this pixel art Pentagon. I was having a real moment at this point. I was having a lot of fun with this game. It was slowly, like, turning each new page that I turned in this game was something I had never seen or experienced before. New rooms to see. I do really love when adventure games take place in the real life. That is my jam, man. That's why I think I really appreciate. I don't know, Police Quest, for example, Gold Rush, anything that's Gabriel Knight, Lara Bow, all the games that take place in the real world are just my favorite. I really like just seeing these real world representations in pixel art. And yeah, I was having a ton of fun with the game at this point. I threw in a little at this point because the submarine is coming up. So we get on an airplane. Oh wait, no, I'm not done having a moment, because my next note says, I guess I expanded on that. I think realistic environments is where Sierra shines. Inside the Pentagon is crisp 90-degree angles. Everything is as it should be. Everything is a jumping off point for your imagination to run with, or a child's imagination to fill in the blanks with. I don't know why I specified it to child, really, but maybe I should say like your nostalgic imagination. I don't know. Point is, I was kind of falling in love with the game at this point. I've got the deeply romantic notes left, it would seem. And yeah, I was having a moment. So we show up at the Pentagon, and as my notes already kind of led to, it's really, it's not overtly interesting, but it's really clinically done. And I think the reason that I said here that I think realistic environments is where Sierra shines is because they didn't have this all-star cast of artists as LucasArts did. Like, LucasArts sought out professional artists to fulfill the role of artists. Like, hey, do art just in pixel art instead, because that's the limitations of the medium right now. Whereas Sierra was like, this little kind of mountain town, if you will, and working with what they had with the people in the area already, as opposed to using George Lucas's money to fly in to fly people in. And I really, I'm just enamored with that kind of ragtag, plucky bunch of so-and-sos that made up Sierra. Sorry, I didn't mean so-and-sos like son of a bitches, because that's usually what so-and-sos means. I just mean so-and-so as in I couldn't think of a word. But I love that about Sierra. It's not, I don't know. It is. I can't really do better than this ragtag, plucky bunch of developers and artists who made it work and who made incredible memories for us all and experiences for us all to play. And that you didn't have to be, an expert artist in your field and flown into the Skywalker Ranch to pull off a really fun and engaging game. And I think that they shined in realistic environments because I can speak for myself. Phantom Fellows takes place in realistic environments, and I don't think of myself as a graphic artist. That graphic artist and programmer are my weak spots, right? I came into making adventure games as somebody who really likes to write and really likes to make music. The other two things are difficult for me. So as somebody who doesn't have a professional background in graphic art, it is, I think, a little bit easier to represent the real world representations. It requires maybe less wild imagination. So maybe you could think about in this moment like Day of the Tentacle, even Monkey Island, but let's stay with Day of the Tentacle for a second, because everything is kind of bendy and stretchy and warped in a really fun, imaginative way. And that takes something that I don't think I have graphically, and that somebody new to graphic art, or maybe the people at Sierra, I'm not sure, I'm not trying to speak for them, but it's just something that's a little bit more within reach, and it doesn't require years of experience. You can kind of like imagine what the inside of the Pentagon would look like and realistically try to craft it, and I think that they just always nail that, like Police Quest 2 and anything that takes place in the real world. Colonel's Bequest, even though Douglas Herring and the artists there are absolutely professional, as is Crow. I mean, this isn't to say that the guys at Sierra aren't professional. Look, listen, I'm really backing myself into a corner here. I'm just trying to say that they shine when they're doing realistic environments, as they do here. The Pentagon looked really good. It forced me to have like this moment. I'm just like, I just love this so much. I love Sierra so much. The people that work there, and just everything about it. So, recap. I'm really enjoying the game. We haven't gotten to the submarine yet. Things are going to change. We're getting there. Okay, so the game says, I don't understand. Okay, sorry. I just started reading a note to you guys. That's probably jarring and confusing. One of my notes says that the game in response, so if you type a word in the parser that the game doesn't understand, it says, I don't understand the word. And I just thought that was interesting. It's got this very HAL AI vibe to it, like, I don't understand you. The game is referring to itself as I, which is weird and cool. And maybe a lot of them do that. I never paid attention to it before. I just thought it was weird last night. Okay, so we're at the Pentagon. We have to meet with our whatever, commander. And so we do. I have another note here. Do I want to say this? I do not. So we are briefed on what we're going to have to do here. And the guy tells us that because we've been to submarine school, we'll be fine, which I don't feel like that's how a high-ranking military professional would refer to having experience or training in the operation of a submarine. To be like, you went to submarine school, you know what you're doing. Another note here, dude takes too many sips of water. See, that's a great if Anna was here note, because then she'd be like, he did. For some reason, he keeps, I think they're trying to make it look cinematic, so they have him just sipping the shit out of this glass of water he's holding, and it's not paced right. It's weird. And then my next note, so the girl that we slept with earlier, is put up on the screen. They're briefing us on what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to take the submarine and go around the outside to Tunisia. We're going to have to go up the west coast of America, north of Alaska, curl all the way around the north of Canada, through that whole icebergy region there. See, again, really could use Anna for this. And so they're briefing us on the mission, where we're going to have to go, blah, blah, blah. And then the girl we slept with picture comes up, and it's like a smaller version of her portrait now. And my note says, man, they fumbled the fuck out of her portrait, dude, because they did. It looks not good. the smaller version of it. Like, they gave her a really guy-like jawline. Like, she's just got this brutish, like a jawline that I would like to have. This thing is like chiseled as fuck. Okay, anyway. So after the guy drinks too much water and we realize we're probably going to run into this girl again, I hit a Walking Dead point because you have to get your ID back. And I didn't even realize the guy took our ID, first of all. And I was paying attention. And I didn't catch that I guess he took the ID, so I didn't even know that we had to get it back. But if you don't get it back before using the elevator, the guy on the first floor of the Pentagon's like, sorry, you don't have clearance for the elevator anymore. You already did your meeting. Which is kind of almost believable in a sense. I imagine everything's really rigid and strict and stuff. But that was a lame Walking Dead moment that caught me out. I had to rewatch a few scenes or whatever. But, so at this point, I'm having fun with the game. It's like a really fun spy thriller. And I'm thinking things like, man, it would have been really cool if Sierra continued to make spy thrillers. And it turns out that they were going to. And that Jim Walls actually started to work on the sequel. And it was going to be called Codename Phoenix. He had started working on it, so I'm not sure to what extent he got done that, but basically because of poorer than expected sales, that project was abandoned, so it never happened. But man, it's really a shame that this game fumbled so badly on basically the submarine aspect, because there's a good story in here. The spy thriller aspect is really cool, and the spy thriller aspect lends itself really well to adventure games because there's a lot of cool spy-like things that you get to do in this game that are fun and they make for good puzzles. And it's almost like the convolution between hiding something as a spy lends itself really well to adventure game puzzles. Like, there's so many moments where you're just like, why would I have to insert I'm trying to think of an example on the fly here. You have to insert your ID into a briefcase, and then it opens a secret door in the briefcase, and behind that secret door is a microfilm processor that is part of this game, and it's really convoluted, but it's because spy stuff. Anybody who's watched James Bond, I haven't, I assume is used to this kind of stuff, right? Where just these kind of convoluted ways of hiding things and not letting people know what's going on. Oh, here's a better example that was actually a fun one. Later in the game, you have somebody on the inside in somewhere around Tunisia or whatever, closer to your target, who is a fisherman, and they're gonna drop a bottle into the ocean. You're gonna put a specific coordinate or decoder message into the bottle so that they know that it's you, and then you go up to the shore and you meet the fisherman, and you have to walk up to them and say Iceman, because that's the code name. And when you say Iceman to the fisherman, he gives you a fish. On the fish is a fishing line and a fish hook. You take the fishing line out of the fish's mouth. You open up the weight. You know, like when you fish, there's like little metal balls for weights or whatever. You open up the weight, and inside of the weight you find a tiny little something. I actually forgot. Let's just say a message that you have to decode. And so that makes sense. Like, it feels like a spy thriller thing to do. Like, it's as ridiculous as it sounds, especially saying it out loud. I really bought into it last night. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, yeah, to stay completely covert, you know, the fisherman might toss you a fish, and to anybody potentially watching, that's no big deal. You would never think there's anything up with the fish, and then it turns out that on the fish's hook, on the weight, on the line, there's a tiny message inside of it, and blah, 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 and it's, I don't know, feels very spy thrillery, and it also makes for good adventure game mechanics, because it's all needlessly complicated, as adventure game puzzles basically have to be. So there's a lot of, I don't know, I feel really just bummed out that this didn't become a franchise, because, you know, we would go on to get, it would have been cool to get Codename Phoenix instead of probably Blue Force. Yeah, exactly that. All right, so, oh man, breathe. Jesus. How is this 40 minutes? This is insane. You guys, you can't still be here. Surely nobody's still listening to this verbal speed run through Codename Iceman. If you are, hey, man, thanks for hanging out. Okay, we're gonna finish this strong. So, I want to kind of quickly note that Walking Dead, where I didn't get my ID back. First of all, part of that puzzle was to ask the guy. Well, puzzle's maybe a bit much, but part of that interaction is that you have to ask the Pentagon staffer to give you your ID back, and he will first give you the wrong ID, and if you don't look at it and realize that, then I think it leads to a dead end as well, which is not cool. Because that's a weird thing to do. Like, somebody gives you the ID in the game to think, like, I better check to make sure it's the right ID. Actually, it's very Jim Walls now that I'm saying it out loud. Very, very procedural, and yeah. Man, what a fascinating guy. I would like to sit down and pick his brain. Ew, that's a gross saying, pick his brain. Something gross about it. Anyway, the incorrect ID that you get back will have the name of a Sierra developer. It might be Mark Hood, the programmer for this. I'm not sure. I don't remember that. But anyway, so next we exit the Pentagon and we head on an airplane and we fly. I kind of forgot actually where we're going. We're going to where the submarine is, though. That's all about to go down. So another note here, I'm having another moment. So the note says, the narrative on the plane is really nice. It's written within its abilities and manages to set the stage. You feel tension for the mission. In fact, it's easy to believe. It was the Cold War, and one botched incident like this, with a U.S. ambassador killed, really could have had dire consequences for the whole world. Suddenly, this average military guy's mission feels actually important, like the fate of the world really could rest on his shoulders. So, yeah. Maybe some preemptive context I should have given there is that suddenly the fate of the world is narratively speaking put on your shoulders, where it's like, this mission is of utmost importance, because if we don't save the U.S. ambassador before he gets assassinated, then it could really escalate tensions in the world. In the Cold War, it could yeah. I think most of us listening, or at least I could speak for myself, we're just a little young to have been aware of the fear of the Cold War. But from what I gather from people that were just that, I don't know, maybe 7 to 10 years older than I am, that there was this sense of, like, at any minute something really could have caused a nuke to go off. That there really was this nervousness in the air at all times between the USSR and America and things like this. So even without having been not alive through it, because I was, but you all know what I mean. Even though I wasn't aware of the situation at the time, I still have an understanding that there was this great amount of tension, and you can really kind of easily imagine that, the death of the assassination of a U.S. ambassador could have, who knows, like, one of those things could have caused somebody to press the button and really, send things down, spiraling downwards. So the story at hand here is really believable, and it, when the game starts, you're just, all you know is that you're like a military guy, but as the game plays out, you realize, like, you're a commander, you're pretty high ranking. There's little moments in the game as you meet other senior officials. They'll say things like, you have an outstanding reputation, so it's an honor for me to work with you, Commander Westwood, or whatever. Westwood made Blade Runner. Not Westwood Studios, Westland. And so anyway, the game does a great job of making you feel like you are an accomplished commander of the military, and it would be you potentially that's picked. Even though I mocked it earlier, where it's like, the thing you read in the newspaper becomes the thing that you're going to be involved in. But it's like, it turns out you are pretty high ranking, you are a pretty big deal in the military, and it turns out that if you do fail this mission, like, the fate of the world might be on your shoulders. You really do need to do a good job here, and I think that's really competent writing. I mentioned in my little note here that it's written within its abilities, because it doesn't try to be grandiose. It doesn't try to be something it's not. And in fact, I think anything AGI through SCI 0, or a less nerdy way to put it, anything text parser in the Sierra days didn't have a ton of room for narrative. Like, you'll find the storytelling is thinner than our memories have preserved it as such. And I think a lot of that just comes down to the fact that there isn't like big lengthy dialogue cutscenes, and a lot of it is just reading off of white text boxes, as opposed to, like, so-and-so's text box with a portrait and so-and-so's text box with a portrait, or different colors, the ways they would go on to represent two different people. It wasn't as narratively rich as it would quickly become in the VGA era, let's say. So, considering the limitations of what they were working with, I think the storytelling was really, really good. It was really believable. It was a really engaging spy thriller. There's little flavor. Yeah, well, not flavor text in the sense of like look at, interact sort of things, but there's just little, I don't know, little pepperings of text that it's really good. It's showing me that Jim Walls at this point has had some experience with writing adventure games. If, for example, you get on top of the submarine and you have to salute the flag and you have to salute the soldier there. Again, as you would have to in real life, and as Jim Walls would sure as hell make sure you do in his game. And the quick description for it is like you provide a snappy salute. And there's something about the wording of snappy where you can immediately imagine what he means. Like just that real rigid military-like salute. It is snappy. So just imagine 30 of those spot-on like descriptors peppered throughout the game, and you have yourself a well-written game. So yeah, in Codename Iceman's defense, it's a really good premise. It's a really good plot. The spy thriller thing feels like a spy thriller, especially with like, finding earrings with film in them and the fishing thing that I already went into, and just all these little aspects. Like you feel like you're in a spy thriller for sure. So it's so close to being an awesome game. But then we enter the submarine, which we do at this point in my notes and everything. So that worked out nicely. Quick little minor complaint. When I kind of waxed poetically about the moment on the airplane where the game is being reflective and telling you, it's really setting the tension. Like, here you go, man. You're off on your big mission. Don't blow it. The world's depending on you. That's all really good, except for they don't mention the girl in that scene, and that kind of annoyed me because we slept with this girl. Has anybody ever seen Vanilla Sky? It was like, that means something. But it's, I'm not going to say it. The 5 of you know what I'm talking about. It's gross and funny at the same time. But anyway, it's not just that we slept with her, but it's like we slept with her. We have the earring with the microfilm, and then the briefing that we just left before the airplane had her up on screen as somebody who it works for the CIA, and we're going to have to meet her at a checkpoint. She's like one of the rendezvous people who's helping with the mission. So it would have been nice if Johnny could have been a little reflective about that too, and just at all acknowledge that just happened, as a matter of fact. But that didn't happen, and that's okay. Also, quick note, there's a typo in the game, because during the plane's little monologue, I don't know, exposition, let's say, they use the word unbelievable, and the U is a 0. So it's 0NBEL, blah, blah, blah. So that's something that got through some sort of testing, at least, whatever. Okay, so again, that's missing Anna in moments like that. for just some sort of... I wouldn't need her to be like, yeah, I saw that too. I would need her to go ahead and move us forward. Like, get me off of that. Let's keep going. I can't believe we're at 47 some minutes now. This is insane. Okay. So I'm gonna speed run the submarine, because I didn't actually take many notes for it because it's fucking grueling. So here's the deal. I wrote down that the submarine was fun because there comes a time where you finally operate the submarine. It's not that bad. There's just 3 controls. Now, granted, there are 30 unlabeled buttons, which is a disaster from a design perspective. Like, really. But at the end of the day, you've only got to move 3 different things. It doesn't matter. You've got to move 3 different things. As far as, steering, going up, and going... No, sorry. Okay, I guess I am breaking it down. There's a steering control. There's a acceleration control, speeds you up, slows you down. And then there's a pitch control for diving up... going down in the water or going up in the water. So it can very easily overwhelm you, but if you just stay really laser focused, it's like there's only 3 controls. I just have to kind of master those. So I did the first submarine sequence, and I only had to load a save game I think 4 times. It might have been 3. So it really wasn't bad. It was actually kind of in that nice little pocket where it's like you don't want to nail it the first time. There won't be a dopamine hit if you do. So you want it third try before it starts to get frustrating. And it was right around there, and I was like, okay. Like, why is everybody talking so much shit about this submarine thing? Like, yeah, okay, I had a walkthrough. So the walkthrough told me exactly what to do. But, with adventure games, it's like, especially playing the older games nowadays, like, a lot of us will use a walkthrough. Like, it's accepted. I think when a lot of us say you should play this game, it's like, we're not expecting one another to like beat King's Quest 3 like without a walkthrough. Like, what are you, a monster? Like, that's insane. So I guess what I'm saying is this game would have been let off the hook if it was just a matter of like, oh, the submarine part is a little iffy, just use a walkthrough and it'll be fine. Instead, people are like, no, the submarine part ruins the game. It's an infamous disaster. It's incredibly frustrating. In research for this episode, I saw Redditors posting things like, I played this game as a kid. I probably put 30 hours into it, and I never beat it. Like, I never did get past the submarine. So sad. So I wrote down this note of like, holy shit, I can't believe I'm going to get on the podcast and tell everybody, guys, it's not so bad. Like, this is actually a great game, and the submarine part's not that big of a deal. It turns out you have to do the submarine part several more times. And it gets more complicated. There's icebergs that you're going to have to go around. You have to launch missiles at enemy ships at another point. It really wears you down, man. It definitely crosses over into like, hey, adventure gamers aren't going to be having fun anymore. Like, we didn't sign up for this. This is a lot of like, tactical kind of combat submarine simulation stuff going on. It's incredibly rigid. I will give it a little bit of credit because I think we all know what it does wrong, in a sense anyway. But it's like, one thing it does that is nice is like, you have to head for maintain a certain coordinate, and it'll let you be off by a couple. You don't have to hit it like, if it says, go to 100 degrees whatever, you can go to 97 and it'll be fine. So it's not unforgivably rigid, but it is rigid in the sense that like, the commander or whatever is yelling things at you, and if you don't do it pretty damn quickly, you just die. You just get a death message. Pay more attention. If you don't shut the hatch, you die. If you don't this, you die. It's just like, you have to constantly nail it. And this will be a good time, I guess, to bring up some quotes and some things like that I have from Mark Hood, who designed this game. And a lot of this is coming from The Sierra Adventure by Sean Mills. So shout out to Sean. Definitely check that book out if you haven't. It's a really, really fun read. But there's a nice little mini section on Iceman in it, and essentially, Hood designed the sub as a simulator, and then he had to, in his words, shoehorn in Jim's adventure game requests. So it basically became a simulator that you can't freely control, which isn't, necessarily how simulators are supposed to work, right? There should be some sort of freedom about. Freedom to control it and to operate it as you would, maybe within a loose parameter, but essentially you have no free control. So Mark quotes, he said, Jim stated the things that would happen like an adventure game, but in a sim, people could do what they wanted to some extent. So it ended up being a strange hybrid of the artist and me trying to make a sim first, then trying to shoehorn in all the events that he listed in the design. We used to joke that it was like the Autopia race car track at Disneyland, where a real car, the submarine, is on rails. So you could turn the steering wheel and make the submarine go up and down, but it would only do what the design said it should do, which is very adventure gamey. So you can kind of see this impossibility of this whole thing working out, as anyone would have wanted it to, where on one hand it's designed to be like a simulator, and on the other hand it's inside of an adventure game where there isn't an infinite amount of outcomes and possibilities. It has to basically be railroaded and head towards the same conclusion as adventure games always have to do. Sans very few exceptions, maybe if there's 3 different paths or things like that. But even then, there's only 3 paths, right? There's not an infinite amount of them. So that's essentially, I think, the spirit of what's wrong with the submarine. There was also, when it came out, there was a lot of speed issues with the submarine. Mark Hood said the submarine was a class that had all kinds of properties that we could tune and refine to make the performance appropriate for the machine you were on. So in other words, they coded it so that it could handle a 286 or a 386. But then he goes on, but machines instantly got like 10 times faster the next year, and the code didn't adjust things the way that it should have, so it was hard to control anything on anything other than a 386. So in other words, they were able to retrospect it. Like, if you bought the game and had an older, slower computer, the game would accommodate that, no problem. But the next year, 486 came out and blew the 386 out of the water, and suddenly the clock speed, everything was, just impossibly too fast. So I bring that up to say also that the submarine isn't as bad as the community tends to say it is, because a lot of the recollection, first of all, the community talking about Iceman played it back in the day. Nobody's playing Iceman today, except for me, and Anna played like a quarter of it and before she got sick. So when people are saying the submarine is just unforgivably impossible, they might have been, there's a really good chance that they were the people playing it on a 486, and to which I could see it being absolutely impossible, because it's really, really hard as it is. Like playing it at in the intended clock speed, let's say a 386 or whatever, it's already pretty hard. Like you've got a little bit of a window to maybe press the wrong thing. Like if you move the accelerator forward instead of backwards, you can do that wrong like twice and then you die. So it's, what I mean? It's not impossible. It's pretty rigid, but it's totally doable. But if you were to up the speed at all, and if I was to lose the ability to do one or two wrong things before I died, it would be a rage quit fest for sure. So I don't think the submarine part is as hard as people say it is if you're playing it with the proper clock speed. I think that it just wears you down if you have to do it too many times. If you just had to do it once, that would be cool, but you have to do it every time that you need to travel. And then they start making it even harder with introducing things like missile attacks and icebergs that you have to go around, and it's just not fun at all. It's a little stressful and it's not fun at the same time. So what I wanted to add here from Mark Hood, the programmer. So by the way, Mark worked on a lot of Sierra games. Literally off the top of my head, Phantasmagoria 1 and 2, King's Quest 5, maybe 6, Gabriel Knight 3. He worked on a lot of Sierra games. This was his first Sierra game, and he actually, what would you say, pioneered a few really, really useful things for Sierra that were implemented in Iceman and then perfected later on. And Mark kind of threw his hands up as a gentleman would and said the following. He chalks basically this whole mess up to my naivety. That's a weird word. Even when you say it right, it's weird. Naivete, whatever. He chalks all that up. Dang it. How do I patch this together? I'm just going to say it wrong, okay? We're just going to say it wrong and then move through it. My naivete about how adventure game development worked as a team, all working together to make a game work well. Phew, that's not going to make enough sense for you guys. Okay. All right, what do we do? How do we make this make sense? Mark chalks it up to his naivety about how adventure game development worked as a team, all working together to make a great game work well. Then he goes on to say, Jim made some great games with teams that understood this. I, far too much in hindsight, was interested in the tech, and I really just tried to read the design and implement it. So he basically is trying to say, like, hey, Police Quest 1 and 2 worked. It's not Jim's fault for trying to, have them do the submarine thing in an adventure game where it didn't belong. It's more, it's more him recognizing that Jim needed people around him that were more savvy to adventure games to kind of reel Jim in and help him understand how his idea could be bended and twisted and morphed and worked or made to work into something suitable to an adventure game. So I think basically a lot of what he's saying is that maybe he focused a little too much on the tech side of things and should have invested more into the spirit of collaboration and things like that, as opposed to just taking what Jim said and try to make it work, and maybe more had some more meetings around the table and discussions about what that all might look like before going ahead with it. So there's that. So let's keep moving. Everything that we've talked about so far is about an hour and a half of the game, which means you could essentially play up to this point in the game in the amount of time it took me to describe it all. And then the submarine just takes up a gigantic chunk of the game, and we're just skipping all that because this is already a much longer episode than I intended it to be, especially considering it's just me, and that's probably exhausting on you guys. So yeah, sub was fun the first time. Long story short. Okay, fun little tidbit. So after you get to where you're going, you have to meet your higher up in his room. You're still in the submarine, in his quarters or whatever. So I'm in there, and basically at some point I just walked into a room and wondered why the room transition wasn't happening, and then I got fired. And the game, the game gave me "you're fired, you failed, restore your game" message, and I was like, what the hell? Like, why did I just walked into a room? The transition never happened, so I'm just in this room, and then I get fired for having done that. It was so weird. And then it turns out that I was in the dude's closet. And then my next note says, actually, it turns out the closet was a bathroom, because I decided to reproduce it and see what the hell was going on. So I walked into the room, I typed "look" before I get fired this time, and it turns out it's a bathroom. So then I typed "go pee" or whatever, and it said, "get closer, it's shorter than you think, Johnny." To which I just wrote down, God, I love Sierra. That's just the best, man. That is everything beautiful about a Sierra game, is that, you see something, you give it a shot, see if the developers thought of something for it and had something there for you, and there was gold. I absolutely love that. That is everything amazing about Sierra, essentially. Okay, so my next note says that the art at times looks, post-Pentagon, looks a little manhunt-y. That was a false lead. It turns out that the Murray brothers did the art themselves with Manhunters, so it was not the same. It does have Manhunter vibes here and there. But is it the Murray brothers? That would be an Anna thing. She knows Douglas and something. I can hear her saying it faintly in the back of my head. Dee, she says something Murray. Okay, well, anyway. My next note says, I don't know why there's fucking wood shop on the second floor of this submarine. The fucking the fuck with a lathe and shit. I'm a commander. Okay, so another bummer part of this game is suddenly the submarine part becomes really not fun. Remember all that cool stuff about how it feels like a spy thriller I was saying earlier, and how the puzzles really suit it? Well, they kind of just stopped that for like a 45-minute chunk of the game, probably, definitely more without a walkthrough, where you have to start just fixing shit that doesn't work on the ship. Like, for some reason. One of the missiles won't load into the thing because the thing is not right. So you have to go get a metal piece and use a lathe to get the metal piece cut down to the right size, and then put it back in the thing so that whatever will work. And then 3 other things from there don't work. It's like, if I only had to fix the one thing, it would have been fine. But they just kind of wear you down a little, where they're like, okay, well, now you got to deal with this and make this button thing happen. And it's just not spy thriller. It's not in the spirit of the game here. And then I don't, look, listen, I've never been on a submarine. I don't know what goes on the second floor of a submarine, any floor of a submarine. But I found it a little weird that the second floor of this submarine is wood shop. There's just like a saw thingy. I'm not a handy man, so I don't know the names of these things. I'm embarrassing myself. Oh my God. Oh shit, I'm gonna have to say the name of these things. I don't know them. But there's not wood shop stuff in there. Like, I to go into a submarine and find, like, the sawzall, the wheel spinny thing that looks scary for your fingers, there's one of those. But what are the little wooden horses that hold up wood stuff? There's a bunch of those. Like, it looks like wood shop, and I don't think that's how submarines would work. And it's all just laid out in a very, like, educational, like, sense, like blatantly for this puzzle. Like, boy, I need a lathe. It's a good thing that there's a lathe on the submarine, right? I'm not. I hope look, actually, I'm okay with being wrong. If somebody has been on a submarine and can reach out and be like, actually, dude, there's a full-on wood shop on the 3rd floor. It's not the 2nd floor. It's the 3rd floor. But otherwise, that's how they really are. Then I'll throw my hands up and be like, my bad, dude. I didn't know. My son just came in the door like Kramer with a balloon in his mouth. Terrific. All right, yeah, just get yourself a juice box and a string cheese and, go on and... Okay, so yeah. That part of the game also wore me down a little bit because, honestly, maybe it's almost a pacing issue at that point where you want to break from tedious tasks after operating the submarine, and the next thing you have to do is it's just not fun. Like, it's not a rewarding experience. Like later on, it does get better again. It gets more spy-like, where you have to, you get to scuba dive and plant a bomb on a thing, oil rig, I think, And then you get to go to like a XY coordinate and put the bottle in the fisherman's net. Like that's all very spy thriller and fun. So I like that, and I don't mind going through like the tedium of adventure games, the step-by-step processes, as long as it suits the story and it feels like you're exacting out your role to play in the story. And I like all that. But when a high-ranking military official, first of all, it's already a little weird that we're driving the submarine. Like I don't that doesn't necessarily work either. But it's like I'll accept that. I will subvert that expectation. But then it turns out like I have to fix the broken stuff on the ship. And there's a guy who works in the wood shop. And when you first show up there, he fucks off to lunch. He's like, he purposely makes it known that he won't be back. He's basically says, in other words to the player, I'm not going to help you. And it's like, dude, like we have a guy for this. It's a submarine. It's almost like being in space. Like you are isolated under the ocean only with the crew that you have. If something breaks, you have one job, bro. You're the woodshop guy. Fix the thing. Like, why am I fixing the thing? See, anyway, that all boils over, and you're just like, I don't want to be doing this at all. This is not fun. And when you do it, you're rewarded with having to go back and operate the submarine again and get it to where it's going. So at this point, I'm sad and I'm falling out of love with the game, and I'm like, damn it, Iceman! Like you've been so much fun to this point, but you're getting really frustrating.
Yes,
so
you remember this
what
whole...
I did is what I recommend a lot of you do if you do want to check out this game. And I do think there's a good experience to be had if you do the following. Check out the description of the podcast and grab my saved games. And use them. They're not my saved games. I got them from Sierra Help, but Sierra Help, they don't know this, but their link to those save games doesn't work anymore. And it turns out a long time ago I had downloaded it. So if anybody listening works at Sierra Help, your Iceman save game links are broken. But I've got them, and I'm linking them in the description to the podcast here from my Dropbox. Grab those, and here's what you do. Play the game in DOSBox, because the save games aren't Scum formatted. They're only the Scum VM uses its own save game files. So these are the original save game files. So you have to use DOSBox. I highly recommend you use Munt, the MT32 emulator, especially with this game, because the soundtrack is banging. I hate that I did that. I'm so sorry, guys. But yeah, just open up your Iceman folder. The save games, there's about 5 different folders in the save games, right? Because you can only have X amount of save games at a time, especially in this earlier SCI 0 era. So you start with the first or second folder's worth of saved games. Probably start with like the second or third folder, because again, the beginning of the game is super fun. And then just paste the save games into your Iceman folder. And if you get to a point where you need a save that's not in there, it's further in the game, you don't have to quit Iceman. You can leave DOSBox running. Just swap them out. Just copy and paste, and okay to replace all files, blah blah blah, and you're good to go. And basically, I used save games to skip the bullshit. And you could probably do this with the debug code as well. I didn't, so I wouldn't know how to direct you into doing that. Yeah, I'm not even sure that you could, because that's more like skipping rooms. I don't know if you'd be able to advance the plot. Anyway, the save game thing is a pretty solid approach, and it preserved the experience. Because once I got back to the submarine for the second time, I was like, I'm not doing this, because I'm having fun, and I'm determined to stay having fun, and I don't want to sour my experience. I deterministically pushed through the submarine thing one time to be able to say I did the submarine by myself with a walkthrough, and I got the experience with a walkthrough, and that's all I needed. I didn't want to do it anymore. Plus, I knew there was like more complicated stuff with icebergs and whatever coming up, so I just loaded the save afterwards. And whoever made these saves, thank you very much, because they're super well labeled, so I was able to skip just the right amount ahead where I didn't actually miss anything. It just skips you right past the nonsense, and I was able to just keep on having fun. It also cuts the entire playtime experience down to like 2.5 hours, making it like a really fun little evening. So I would do that, because I think there's a really good game here to be had. You just have to skip the submarine scenes to have it. So now you're scuba diving, you place a bomb on a thing, you have to swim away, it explodes. This part of the game, you definitely need a walkthrough for too, because you have to swim to specific coordinates, and it's pretty confusing. I don't know. I kind of quickly used the walkthrough here, so I can't say I really gave it a good go and determined that it was too hard, and so I needed a walkthrough. I more just went right to using a walkthrough. But it seemed pretty complicated, and as I was transitioning scenes, or moving room to room, it didn't seem to make a whole lot of sense. It wasn't as like predictable as I thought it would be. So maybe that's another like chalk one up for some bullshit in this game. Just the wrong kind of procedural, right? It's not fun. And again, any one of these things would have probably been fine. It's just like, man, you don't want to. It's just endless amounts of the same blue ocean scene. There's nothing. I mean, even the desert in King's Quest V, for example, has like slightly different takes on the background. Even the jungle in Larry 3, like the jungle, the position of the trees change. In this case, it's just blue, man. It's just the ocean. Nothing changes. Not a good time. But with a walkthrough, it's no big deal. You're done it in like 5 minutes. The walkthrough's like, yeah, swim left for like 30 screens and then up 4 times and you're done. So you do all that. The bomb goes off. Then you end up in a more scenic underwater scene this time where there's fish and there's a little cave and you have to swim through the cave. And all that's fun. I like a good Sierra cave, especially back in the 16-color days. So that was fun going through the cave and navigating all that, being a little nervous because your oxygen tank is running low. Like, that's all good. It's all good stuff. You get a sense of stakes and things like that. So kudos. That part of the game is super fun. Then you do the spy thing with the fish. You go up onto the shore and you're wearing like a diving suit, and that's when you get the fish from the guy. And when the guy hands you the fish, he does one of those shady left-right drug dealer kind of, just one of those shady takes. He looks left, looks right, and then gives you the fish. Like, dude, you ruined it. This whole thing was super smooth except until you gave that blatantly shady look. But yeah, you take the fish. You've got a few seconds to hide behind a rock before the authorities come by and arrest you, because why are you in a diving suit in the middle of not a wealthy area, let's just say, just a rough part of town. So you have to quickly get off screen and then quickly go into a hut, and there's nothing in the hut except for a change of clothes, and that's what you needed. So you put on the disguise and you walk around just a very white man in a turban, but nobody suspects anything of it. And yeah, then you meet up with your girl, with Stacy, who you slept with a while ago. By the way, at some point in this whole mess of what I'm, as I kind of bum rush to the end here, the game says that you use the Arabic word on so and so, and I just thought that was funny. I've never in an adventure game used Arabic on person. Like, that was funny. Anyway, you meet up with Stacy, who's in full disguise. And you guys just don't address the elephant in the room. There's no mention of the thing that like again, the game almost feels a little gaslighty. Like, why are we not talking about the thing that we did back there? But you just don't. And she gives you, there is a flirty vibe, I would say. You just don't address the thing, which I guess is probably maybe even realistic, right? I'm not sure in real life you'd be like, hey, remember fucking like that? That was the thing we did together. So who knows? Maybe the game's a step ahead of me on that one, but regardless, she gives you information that you need. Man, by the way, there's a lot of decoding to do in this game, which is fun. But again, maybe this is the emerging theme here, is that it would have been fun once. You have to keep decoding stuff. It's too many decoding things. It's too many. Any one of these things, again, like if you had to do the submarine one time, granted, they would have had to have fixed their speed issue back in the day to have retroactively fixed everyone's future complaints. But the point is, the submarine once would have been fine. The decoding thing would have been fun the first time. Maybe fixing one part. I don't think they should have done any. That was bullshit to begin with. The whole woodshop thing is not fun. But regardless, any of this stuff, all of it you have to do several times. And it really, it's not, none of it's fun enough to warrant a second time. So, yeah. Okay, so this is, by the way, this is the very, very end. So Stacy gives you an address. No, she doesn't. My note says, "Are we going to address this or not?" I mistook past me, but she tells you what hut to go into. You go into the hut. There's 3 canisters on the counter. You have to inspect each of them and find a hidden weapon in one of them. Very cool. And you get a tranquilizer gun, which I imagine was supposed to be a real gun, but got changed at some point by somebody to a tranquilizer. And then there's a fun little conclusion here where basically there's like a catering service. This is all stuff that Stacy had on the ground doing her thing had found out for us. That there's a catering company that brings food into the kidnapped ambassadors' keepers, I guess you'd say. The people that they kidnapped our boy that we're trying to rescue. They order food at the same time every day, and it's brought in by a caterer and blah, blah, blah. So here's what we have to do. We have to contact the caterer and be like, we have a different driver today, so don't be surprised. No funny business. And set the stage so that we can take the place of the caterer, which you do by also ordering food from the caterer. When the guy comes in, you pull a gun on him, basically, and then you make him strip down, and then you can... my note says, I tried to fuck the caterer and the game killed me. And that's true. I out of context, tried to get him to take his clothes off, and he was not having any of it. And then, of course, the girl walks in the room, and she's like, you blew it. The guy got away. This is a Jim Walls game. What are you doing? You got one chance to rigidly execute this or don't. So anyway, you do it the right way, and you get him to give him your clothes, and you take his car, and you deliver the goods where you walk in, and you find the ambassador, and under the catering plate, because for some reason you deliver the food as if it's a 5-star meal under like a silver metal bell dome, and you lift up the top of it, and there's a gun on the plate instead of the food, and you save the day, man. So, but that's not all. That's not all, because this is crazy that they did this, but they decided to go with like this final boss style ending where you now have to drive a car up a winding mountain path with the ambassador in the car while a group of terrorists follow behind you shooting at you. So you can't, if you slow up too much, they get you. And if you go too fast, you speed off the side of a cliff, and you have to make these like crazy chicane turns to get around this thing. And it's really, really hard, and it's not fun. Like I love me some racing games, and the idea of executing, a slalom like that, but it's not, it's too hard. It's definitely too hard, and it's just, I guess that's why in my notes I wrote it as like a final boss sort of thing, where it's like, man, I think they thought the idea of like a hard thing to do last will give you the sense of, victory or whatever, and it's just not how adventure gamers roll, man. I did not appreciate that at all. But anyway, you eventually, that's it. They put an ability to skip it on screen. Just think about that for a second. The game with the infamous submarine thing that you can't skip is now letting you skip something. So that's how you know that they know that this is too hard and bullshit, because they're going to let you skip this. And just to me, the idea of a final scene, regardless of the final scene itself being this final boss thing that's way too hard, a mini arcade sequence, to have the final scene be skippable is fumbling. That's not like the grand conclusion of an epic adventure, right? Is skipping it because it's too hard. So that was a bummer. And as you guys can track my tone in this, you can just hear how like I just fell in love with this game and then just started realizing all the weird little things it does and started kind of putting a foot out the door on her. But I just started backing away slowly, like from the submarine to the having to fix the submarine parts, to the coordinate following with the diving, to now this last little, but like it's too much. It's too much, and it's a shame because it wants to be a good game. It has a good story. A spy thriller suits itself to the adventure genre incredibly well. The writing in the game is really good. There's some really fun and memorable parts of it, like the dancing, the Mr. and Mrs. Smith vibe with the girl. Like there is some of the puzzles when they're playing into the strengths of the spy thriller. It's really, really clever, and it's really well done and really well thought out. And then sometimes it's just not. And ultimately, it does kind of ruin the experience, even with the ability to skip, whether it be with your own saved games, which I acknowledge you shouldn't have to do, or to skip it on screen. Skipping on screen is a good example because it's just so anticlimactic. Like, it kind of takes all the wind out of the sails when you just skip like the final scene. I should say there is one quick scene afterwards where you're on a boat and there's like a big medal ceremony where they're honoring you. But even that they kind of fumble because they have you, this is pedantic and nerdy of me, but they have you kiss the girl at the end. So you get the medal, the golden dolphins put onto your uniform and the accolades from your peers and a promotion from commander to captain. And then they have you kiss the girl, which I get has this cinematic scene to it, but it's like it's a spy thriller. Like I don't feel like like she's not the girl that would publicly kiss you. Like it had this cool like our little secret spy vibe to it, and I didn't think that fit either. So yeah, this game wants to be a great game, and if you use saved games and you approach it with care, it can be. But ultimately, there's a lot wrong with it. So yeah, that's my shockingly long take on Codename Iceman. I'm so sorry that Anna couldn't be here. First for me, and then for you. But I can tell you she played about a quarter of it. We purposely don't talk much about games that we're playing for an episode so that we can, unveil our raw reactions to each other with authenticity for you guys. So we generally don't talk very much when we're playing a game, but I can say that the few little things she said weren't positive. She was also getting sick as she was playing it, and just not I'm not sure she really loved the first hour of the game. And boy, if you don't like that, then you got no chance. But yeah, that's Codename Iceman. It's a game by Sierra, and I think that it's actually. I'm glad I played it. I really am. I'm glad I played it. I had fun with it. It does some cool things. It is buggy and weird. There's a lot of walk speed issues where you'll set your walk speed, and then it'll force it back to another speed, and then suddenly give you back your walk speed. And there's a walkable areas issue too, like what would you call it? Pathway. I'm close, right? It's not that, but it's something like that. The kids call it. The way in which the character walks around the screen is super buggy. I think the reason for that is one of the things that Mark Hood innovated and implemented in this game for the first time was 8-direction walking. Prior to this game, Sierra characters had 4 directions they could go in. After this game, they would go on to stick with the 8-direction walking, but in this game, it was the first time that they did it, and I'm guessing that was a lot of the issues with the walkable areas. Another cool thing that Mark Hood implemented in this game that they would go on to use was, they called it sorted features. And I had a note here that ties in with this. My note said that the game automates more than usual, which I don't know if I like it. It's convenient, but it feels less Sierra. Which, yeah, like you get used to, especially with parsers, you get used to, commanding everything. So every now and then the game would kind of just do stuff for you, which was weird. And it was a little inconsistent. Like some doors would open for you and others wouldn't. And I'm not speaking about the sci-fi submarine doors. Like I get why they open by themselves, but there's like regular ass doors that open by themselves, and then other ones that don't. But anyway, Mark innovated something called sorted features, which was an innovation that this is his quote, was an innovation that just didn't work as intended with the design. We sorted every feature in the room based on which way your character was pointed and how far away things were. So basically, if you were pointed at a door and typed open, the door would open after the game walked you over there. But if you were standing near a chest and typed open, it knew that you meant the chest and would open that. So very cool, very smart design. I think they would go on to implement this further. I'm not sure. I lost faith in that as I said it out loud because I don't really recall this being a thing. But yeah, it's kind of cool and it's convenient, but it also feels less Sierra, and it also taps into rants I've made on this podcast many times before about adventure games not having a lot to do to begin with. So be careful when you start doing things for the player, because all of a sudden there's just not as much to do anymore, and it's less interactive and potentially less engaging. So for better or worse, I still like the idea of it from a programming side. It sounds very nerdy and very cool. Other notes on this one: this is the game in which Josh Mandel got a job at Sierra 4. He was already working for them as a beta tester at a distance. I think he was living in Chicago at the time, just beta testing games to help them out. I'd be curious how he got that gig to begin with, especially being in Chicago. But nonetheless, he was beta testing for Sierra and ended up beta testing Codename Iceman and finding a bug that the programmers couldn't find. And so he basically said that I'm going to try and quote Josh here, Josh Mandel. So in order to find this bug, I had to play through the game with programmer Mark Hood on the line, with my telling him every single thing that I did and him doing it as well there, in California, until I ran across the bug. And it took hours and hours and hours, and then finally I got the bug, and he said, I got it. And this just it reminded me so much of beta testing with you, with Anna. I just said with you, that's kind of unhinged. It reminds me a lot of, I guess anybody who's made a game or done beta testing, you can relate to a moment like that where the developer desperately needs you to tell them how you did it, man. Been in that position so many times where it's like, I just came out of a position like that. It was somebody reported something on Steam, and they're a customer, not a beta tester, right? So you can't burden them with like this list of demands in which they'll help you reproduce the bug. And as a matter of fact, I basically had to recode a chunk of the notepad in day 5 to fix, just to know that, because I couldn't reproduce it, I'm like, I'm just gonna make sure it's fixed by manually doing everything, like placing the buttons at their XY coordinate myself, so that I knew that it couldn't happen to another player. But regardless, I thought that was a fun little Josh Mandel story. Here's some more fun anecdotes. Why not? Mark Hood had recently been employed as a programmer on the upcoming adventure game by Jim Walls called Codename Iceman. And he clearly remembers his first interaction with Corey Cole. So, Mark says, I had been at Sierra for just a couple weeks, and I was commuting to Oakhurst from my dad's house in Fresno, up and down Highway 41 in the thick fog. As I was headed home one night, I went from the clear above the fog down into it very suddenly, and around a corner at probably 55 miles an hour. The next thing I knew, my Chevrolet S10 Blazer was spinning around on this small mountain road. When it finally stopped spinning, I got out and saw what happened. I had hit a deer, and its antler was stuck in my radiator, with the bulk of its body jammed into my front left wheel well. As Mark was telling the story of this encounter to his teammates the following day, Corey leaned over from the next cubicle and asked Mark if he thought the skull was intact. Mark replied that he thought so. I was creeped out a bit, and then I heard him call Lori and tell her one of the new programmers hit a deer last night, and he thinks the skull is still intact. It turned out that the Coles wanted a skull for their ranch house fence, a common feature in the area. It's not so strange up there, but I was a city boy still, so it was strange to me, Mark laughs. Adorable. That's a great story. And then the last one is, there's an LGR video out there where LGR goes to like this warehouse in, I think, Texas, and stumbles across an old IBM computer. And he brings it home, and it turns out that this computer was actually Ken Williams' computer. And not only that, because that alone is really exciting. Really exciting. This was a gripping LGR episode. It was so exciting to watch this all unfold. Not only is it Ken Williams' computer that he brings home, but it has a beta version of Codename Iceman on it, which is just gold. Like, that is just like I think I actually have goosebumps telling this story. That's how freaking cool it is. Like what a best case scenario that is. And then LGR, I think he put the beta up on Archive and made it available to everybody. And I remember in that episode that LGR does, like the hard drive has like a scratchy sound, like it's really dodgy whether or not he's going to be able to even copy it off of the hard drive, and he does. And we have this awesome preserved beta version of Iceman floating around out there. I don't know why you'd want to play it, because frankly the full version is difficult enough, but it's just cool that all happened and is a real thing. So check out that episode if you haven't seen it already. It's super fun. And that's it. That's all I got. So thank you to everybody for listening. Boy, what an adventure this has been. Hopefully never again. This is a tough without Anna. Thank you guys for hanging in there. Thank you very much to all of our Patreons. I love you guys very much. Thank you for supporting the show for so long. It's surreal that you guys do, and it means the world to Anna and I. It really does. Like, it's to be able to, I don't know, to have the validity to see that there's a community behind us and that wants us to keep doing it, and it just feels cool to be like, yeah, we have a Patreon and people actually support it. That's wild. That's got to put us in like the 0.05% of people in the world or whatever that do a thing that other people want to hear and participate in, and we do not take you guys for granted, and I'm super grateful to all of you. So thank you guys very much for supporting the show. You can check us out on X and Twitter and Blue Stuff and whatever else. We're at Phantom Fellows or CGG Podcast. Send us an email at our email we never are really confident in what it is. It's all in the description of the podcast. What else does Anna say? There's a page in a group on Facebook. That's right. That's a thing, and that's true. You can check us out on there. And check out the Phantom Fellows, right? The phantomfellows.com. It's on Steam. It's on GOG and Fireflower and Itch and all that stuff. If you have played it, I will sell my body for reviews. I would love so much a review. Positive review. It's got to be positive. It's a deal. It's a total deal breaker. If it's not a review, I will sell my body for you to not leave one. But the game needs more positive reviews. Thank you very much to Chad Armstrong for leaving a review. That was a very funny review. And really, really, really appreciate that, man. So yeah, thank you. And anybody else listening, please leave a review. GOG could use reviews. Steam could use reviews. All the things could use reviews. So yeah, and also if you haven't played the game, please play it. That's why I made it, and is for you guys to play it and hopefully enjoy it. And I would love to know what you think too. If you've already played the game, if you're about to play the game, whatever the case is, let us know. Send me at least for me personally, the one I get notifications for is DMs in Twitter. So if you're about to play it, if you're thinking about playing it and want me to obnoxiously nudge you into it. If you've already played it, I would love to hear your thoughts on it. I'm working on the next one right now and having a ton of fun with that. I'll probably share some things with our Patreoners about that very shortly here. So yeah, I guess that's enough about that. What else? I know the murder thing is next. I can't quite reach my Pringles can. Yeah, I can. Okay.
Don't do a murder.
So also sorry for all the me. I'm sorry for burdening you with so much me. This was too much me, and I recognize that. I get it. I have to live with me, so it's a lot. But thank you for dealing with it, and Anna will be back next time. And
Don't Do a Murder, Part 2, the sequel.